Threxen Kale stood beneath the vaulted dome of the Council Citadel, its crystalline arches bending light into disciplined lines that never flickered, never faltered. The structure was meant to inspire certainty. It always had. Empires built monuments like this when they believed permanence was their birthright. Threxen's talons rested on the cold obsidian floor as he waited to be acknowledged. His armor was ceremonial now, stripped of power cores and command sigils, yet the scars beneath it still ached when the chamber's gravity shifted. He had bled on worlds the Council no longer remembered. That, more than age, set him apart from those seated above. "Proceed, High Talon," Chancellor Valorian Zex said, voice smooth and resonant. "You requested time to address the matter of Sol 3. A ripple of faint amusement passed through the chamber. Holographic projections flared to life, displaying Earth, blue oceans, white clouds, fragile satellites clinging to orbit like debris. Data streamed alongside it: industrial output, military tonnage, estimated resistance duration. Threxen watched the numbers scroll and felt something heavy settle behind his eyes. Earth is categorized as a developing system, Valorian continued. Fragmented governance. Primitive kinetic weapons. Limited orbital defense. Our analysts predict full compliance within 6 cycles. Optimistic, another counselor murmured. Threxen lifted his head. Incorrect. The word landed harder than he intended. Silence followed, sharp and brief. Valorian's eyes narrowed. Clarify. I have fought species larger than us, stronger than us, and more advanced than us, Threxen said. His voice was rough, shaped by old command habits. Most broke when defeat became inevitable. Humans do not. A counselor clicked their mandibles in irritation. You speak of theory. We speak of data. I speak of experience, Threxen replied. Valorian gestured. Then enlighten us. Briefly. Threxen inhaled, the scent of recycled air triggering a memory he had buried for decades. 40 cycles ago, on the Caro's fringe, we encountered a human expeditionary unit. 12 soldiers. Cut off from support. No armor worth naming. No air superiority. A faint chuckle echoed from the upper tiers. They were surrounded. Threxen continued, ignoring it. We offered surrender. Logical surrender. They declined. Pride, Valorian said. A common flaw. They did not fight for pride, Threxen said. They fought to delay us. The chamber quieted. For 9 hours, he went on. Those 12 humans held a mountain pass against 3 assault cohorts. They collapsed the terrain. They jammed our communications using civilian transmitters. When ammunition ran out, they used explosives designed for mining. When those were gone, they charged. Valorian leaned forward. And yet you are here. They failed. They died, Threxen said. We lost 2 cohorts and a cruiser. The delay allowed their civilians to evacuate an entire settlement. A pause followed. This one lingered. You exaggerate, a counselor said. Outliers do not define a species. Threxen's gaze hardened. Outliers define humans. He stepped forward, claws clicking softly. They do not calculate victory the way we do. They calculate cost. And they are willing to pay it in full. Valorian's expression cooled. Our projections account for resistance. No, Threxen said. They account for surrender. A ripple of disapproval spread through the chamber. Valorian rose, robes settling perfectly. High Talon Kale, you mistake sentiment for strategy. Earth lacks the infrastructure for prolonged war. Once command nodes fall, resistance will fragment. Threxen shook his head. Humans decentralize instinctively. Remove a leader and another steps forward. Kill that one and a third takes their place. They do not require permission to fight. Valorian's voice sharpened. Every species believes itself exceptional. And every extinct one was wrong in the same way, Threxen replied. The Chancellor's eyes flashed. Enough. Your service is respected, but this council will not stall expansion because of an anecdote. Threxen felt something cold settle in his chest. Then hear this at least. Humans weaponize loss. Every death strengthens the resolve of those who remain. They do not retreat when hope is gone. That is when they become dangerous. Silence pressed down again, heavier now. Valorian lifted a hand, dismissive. Your warning is noted. The vote will proceed. Light flared as the council cast their decisions. One by one, symbols aligned in favor of intervention. The result was unanimous. Operation Dawnfall is approved, Valorian announced. A limited campaign. Minimal force. Earth will be brought into compliance. Threxon closed his eyes. For a moment, the citadel vanished, replaced by smoke, broken stone, and human voices shouting coordinates even as blood filled their lungs. As the council began to disperse, Valorian paused. You look troubled, High Talon. Threxon met his gaze. I have seen what happens when an enemy decides survival is the only objective. Valorian smiled faintly. Then you should take comfort. The Empire has survived everything. Threxon watched him turn away. Around him, certainty returned to the chamber, bright and blinding. He remained where he was long after the others departed. In his mind, he could already hear the human transmissions that would follow. Not cries for mercy. Not demands. Promises. They are about to learn. Threxon murmured to the empty hall. That endurance is a weapon. The citadel lights dimmed as if in agreement, and far beyond its walls, the Empire set its course toward a world that would not kneel. The Imperial fleet translated into the Sol system with flawless precision, thousands of hulls snapping into formation like a blade locking into place. From the command decks, officers observed Earth hanging below, small, blue, alive. It looked delicate. That illusion pleased them. Multiple satellites detected, an operations officer reported. Low-yield power signatures. Primitive orbital network. Admiral Kreveth flicked his crest in satisfaction. Remove them. The first volleys were clean and distant. Light lanced across space, striking human satellites that flared briefly before dissolving into silent debris. No counterfire followed. No signal of protest or challenge. Defenses collapsing already, someone muttered. Below, Earth went quiet. Imperial landing craft descended through the atmosphere unopposed, their heat shields barely warming as they cut toward pre-selected urban centers. Cities unfolded beneath them, vast, complex, dark. Streets were empty. Power grids offline. No frantic civilian movement. No visible panic. This is restrained, Kreveth said. Fear response, his tactical advisor replied. They are hiding. The first troops deployed into a city once called Madrid. Buildings stood intact, windows dark, vehicles abandoned mid-street. The air smelled faintly of smoke and rain. Command, ground team reports zero contact, the field captain said. No civilians. No resistance. Proceed inward, Kreveth ordered. Secure infrastructure. They advanced 3 blocks before the first detonation. A berry charge ripped through the lead transport, folding its armored hull like paper. Debris slammed into nearby units. Before orders could be issued, kinetic fire erupted from elevated positions, short, precise bursts that punched through joints and optics. Ambush! The captain shouted. They're using terrain. The channel cut as another explosion collapsed the street beneath them. From orbit, Kreveth watched red indicators blink into existence across the tactical display. Localized losses, the advisor said quickly. Minor. But the pattern repeated. Every landing zone encountered resistance that appeared suddenly, struck hard, then vanished. Human units never held ground longer than necessary. They destroyed supply drops, severed communication relays, and disappeared into subterranean passages the Empire's scans had failed to fully map. These aren't defensive maneuvers, Kreveth growled. They're delaying actions. Why delay? The advisor asked. They can't win. On a distant relay station, Threxon Kale watched the same data stream in. His talons tightened. They are winning time, he said quietly. A junior analyst glanced at him. For what? Threxon did not answer. On Earth's surface, a human platoon crouched inside the shell of a collapsed transit hub. Dust clung to their armor, streaked with blood and oil. One soldier pressed a hand against his side, breathing shallowly. "You good?" another asked. "I'll manage," the wounded man said, forcing a grin. "Timer set?" 30 seconds. "Make it 20. Above them, Imperial troops moved cautiously, scanners sweeping. They advanced in disciplined lines, weapons raised, expecting resistance ahead. The humans waited until the last possible moment. Now. The charge detonated, ripping through the structure's support columns. Concrete thundered down, crushing the Imperial formation. The humans did not watch. They were already moving, slipping through a maintenance tunnel as the ground collapsed behind them. From orbit, Imperial commanders began to frown. "Why are they abandoning cities?" Krevith demanded. "They're yielding territory without contest." "Perhaps they lack coordination," the advisor offered. "No," Krevith said. "This is deliberate." Imperial supply ships began reporting losses next. Long-range fire from unseen positions disabled engines. Boarding pods, crude, improvised, latched onto hulls, spilling humans into corridors where close-quarters combat erased the Empire's technological advantage. One captured transmission cut through the noise, broadcast openly on an unsecured band. "This is Bravo 7. Holding as long as we can. Tell the others keep moving. No fear. No urgency. Just resolve." Threxon felt a familiar chill. "Human command structure?" the analyst asked. "We can't locate it." "They don't have one," Threxon said. "Not the way you expect." As Imperial forces pushed deeper, resistance intensified. Small human units struck at night cycles, using weather patterns, electromagnetic interference, even civilian machinery repurposed into weapons. Every advance cost more than the last. "Losses exceeding projections," the advisor admitted. Krevith slammed a claw against the console. "Deploy heavier units. End this." They did. The heavier units fell harder. Human fighters swarmed walkers, disabling joints, sacrificing themselves to breach armor. When one fell, another took their place without hesitation. On the surface, a young human officer keyed her transmitter, smoke stinging her eyes. "Command, this is Echo Lead. We're surrounded." Static crackled. Then a calm voice replied, "Understood. Hold as long as you can." A pause. "We won't make it." "We know." The channel went silent. In orbit, Krevith stared at casualty reports that no longer felt minor. "Why haven't they surrendered?" he asked, almost to himself. Because surrender was never the objective, Threxon thought. As the first full cycle ended, Earth remained unconquered. Imperial forces controlled ground that meant nothing and bled for every meter they took. Human transmissions continued to flood the void, short, coordinated, unbroken. Threxon turned away from the display. The pattern was clear now, unmistakable. This was not collapse. It was preparation. By the third cycle, the Empire stopped calling the situation an operation. They called it a complication. Imperial formations no longer advanced in clean vectors. Supply corridors fractured. Entire battalions vanished between check-ins, leaving only sensor ghosts and drifting wreckage. Earth's surface maps, once neat with conquest markers, became scarred with red zones commanders learned to avoid. Admiral Krevith stared at the latest report, mandibles tight. "Explain this again." The tactical officer hesitated. "Human units captured 2 assault skiffs during last night's engagement. They modified the propulsion systems and used them to breach a logistics cruiser." "Modified how?" Krevith snapped. "We don't fully understand yet." That answer had become common. On the surface, humans no longer relied on pre-war equipment. Imperial alloy plates were reforged into crude armor. Power cells were stripped and rewired into explosives with unpredictable yields. Weapons designed for precision were repurposed for brutality. They learned fast. Too fast. In a ruined industrial district, an Imperial walker collapsed as its leg joints locked mid-step. A human crouched beneath it, sparks flying as she finished severing a control cable. She didn't look up when the machine crashed. She was already moving, rifle slung, limping hard. "Fall back," she said into her comm. "They'll be on us." A voice answered, strained but steady. "Copy. Timer's running." She reached the extraction point seconds before the blast tore through the street behind her. The shockwave knocked her flat. She laughed once, breathless, then forced herself upright and kept running. From orbit, Threxon Kale watched the same feed. He recognized the shift immediately. "They've entered adaptation phase," he said. A senior analyst frowned. "Adaptation to what?" "To us," Threxon replied. "To the cost." Imperial troops began reporting a new phenomenon: humans refusing to disengage even when encircled. Units fought until ammunition ran dry, then charged. When that failed, they detonated themselves to collapse tunnels, bridges, or enemy positions. The Empire had faced fanatics before. This was different. "These humans are not driven by ideology," one officer said during a command briefing. "They don't shout slogans. They don't threaten." "What do they do?" another asked. "They apologize," the officer said quietly. "Right before they attack." One transmission circulated through Imperial channels despite encryption efforts. A human voice, young, calm. "If you're hearing this, we didn't make it. Keep going. Don't stop." No plea. No rage. Just instruction. Morale began to erode. Imperial soldiers hesitated before advancing into enclosed spaces. Urban ruins, once considered ideal for rapid pacification, became nightmares of shadows and sudden violence. Humans struck from below, above, and within walls thought solid. They left traps that didn't always kill, only maimed, slowing formations and spreading fear. "They're studying our responses," a battlefield commander reported. "Every time we change tactics, they adjust within hours." In the Council Citadel, emergency session followed emergency session. Projections revised themselves downward with each update. "This is unsustainable," a counselor hissed. "Losses are exceeding historical norms." Chancellor Valorian Zek stood rigid, hands clasped behind his back. "Temporary fluctuations. Once their population centers are fully occupied, resistance will collapse." "They've abandoned their population centers," another counselor snapped. "There's nothing left to occupy." Valorian turned sharply. "Then burn what remains." The order rippled outward. Orbital strikes lit the atmosphere, turning cities into firestorms. The Empire expected screams, transmissions begging for mercy, signs of fracture. Instead, human signals intensified. They spread faster than before, weaving through open frequencies, encrypted bursts, even hijacked Imperial channels. Names were spoken. Dates. Places. Lieutenant Marrow, New Cairo. Sergeant Hale, Anchorage. Private Singh, Delhi. Each name followed by a simple phrase, still holding. Imperial analysts struggled to interpret it. Threxon did not. "They are making loss visible," he said. "They are ensuring every death matters." On the ground, a human unit barricaded itself inside a collapsed rail station. Smoke choked the air. Ammo counters blinked red. "We're out after this," one soldier said, voice hoarse. The squad leader nodded. "Then we make it count." A younger soldier swallowed. "Do you think they'll remember us?" The leader met his eyes. "They already do." When the Empire breached the station, they found nothing intact. The explosion destroyed 3 squads and sealed the tunnel permanently. In orbit, an Imperial capital ship shuddered as something slammed into its hull. "Boarding action!" Alarms blared. Human pods, patched, uneven, had latched onto the ship. Explosives tore open access points. Humans poured through, fighting in tight corridors where reach and armor meant little. "Repel them!" the captain shouted. "They're not retreating," came the response. "There!" The channel cut as the ship's reactor went critical. The capital ship vanished in a white bloom visible across half the system. Silence followed. In the council chamber, no one spoke for several long breaths. Valorian's face had gone pale. Threxton stepped forward. "They are not trying to defeat us in battle," he said quietly. "They are breaking our assumption that survival is guaranteed." Valorian turned on him. "Enough. We still have superiority." "You have mass," Threxton replied. "They have momentum." Outside the Citadel's viewports, fleets maneuvered more cautiously now. Orders came slower. Confidence bled away. On Earth, humans kept fighting. Not because they believed they would win. Because stopping was never an option. Threxton watched the war unfold and felt the old certainty return, the kind that only came before collapse. The Empire was no longer teaching humanity how to fight. Humanity was teaching the Empire what it meant to endure. The retreat order did not arrive with ceremony. It arrived fragmented, encoded in layers of denial and delayed too long to sound authoritative. By the time it spread through the Imperial fleet, the meaning was already clear. The Empire was no longer advancing. It was trying to survive the withdrawal. Ships disengaged from orbit in staggered bursts, some venting atmosphere, others limping on damaged drives. Human fire followed them not in pursuit, but in warning, precise strikes aimed at engines, navigation arrays, anything that ensured the message was understood. Leave. On Earth's surface, human units watched contrails burn across the sky. "They're pulling back," someone said over an open channel. A pause followed. No cheers. No celebration. "Copy," came the response. "Hold positions." In orbit, Admiral Crevice stood amid flickering displays, his command deck scarred and half-lit. Reports streamed in faster than they could be processed. "We've lost 7th and 9th Divisions," an officer said. 3 more fleets are combat ineffective." Crevice closed his eyes. "How?" "They adapted, sir. They captured our systems, rewrote protocols. They're flying hybrid craft now." A silence settled over the deck. "Humans," Crevice said quietly, tasting the word. "They shouldn't be able to do this." "They shouldn't," the officer agreed. "But they are." Across the void, Threxton Kale observed the same withdrawal vectors. He recognized the pattern with grim clarity. This was not a tactical redeployment. This was history turning. "They've learned enough," he murmured. "Now they'll remember." In the Council Citadel, the chamber was no longer pristine. Holograms flickered. Data feeds glitched. Panic bled through the walls no amount of discipline could conceal. Chancellor Valorian Zex stood before the assembly, his voice strained. "The situation remains under review." A councillor slammed a limb against the dais. "We lost a capital ship. Entire fleets are in disarray. Earth stands unconquered." Valorian stiffened. "We retain superiority." Threxton stepped forward before anyone could stop him. "You retain numbers," he said. "Not certainty." Valorian turned sharply. "You will not undermine this council further." "I am not undermining it," Threxton replied. "I am documenting its failure." The chamber erupted in protest, but Threxton did not pause. "You believed humans would collapse without leadership," he continued. "They didn't. You believed loss would weaken them. It didn't. You believed fear would end resistance." He lifted his gaze, eyes steady. "Fear unified them." Silence followed, heavy and unavoidable. "They fought knowing they would die," Threxton said. "Not because they wanted to, but because they decided someone else would live. That decision spread faster than any command." Valorian's voice dropped. "We will not be remembered as the empire that fled. You will be remembered as the empire that finally listened," Threxton said. "Or the one that didn't and ceased to exist." No one challenged him. On Earth, the fighting slowed. Not because humans were exhausted, but because the target was gone. Medical teams moved through ruins. Civilians emerged cautiously, faces hollow, eyes sharp. A young soldier sat on a broken stairwell, helmet resting at his feet. His hands shook as he wiped grime from his face. "Is it over?" he asked. The woman beside him shook her head. Not for us. He swallowed. Did we win? She considered the smoke-filled skyline, the distant fires, the silence where explosions had been. We're still here, she said. That's enough. Above them, captured Imperial vessels drifted in human-controlled space, their systems stripped, studied, rewritten. Engineers worked without pause, not driven by ambition but necessity. They documented everything. Shared everything. Humanity did not hoard what it learned. Across the galaxy, listening posts intercepted a final open transmission from Earth. It was broadcast without encryption, translated into every known tongue. We did not seek this war, the message said. We will not chase those who leave. But we will remember who came. The transmission ended there. In the aftermath, trade routes rerouted themselves. Border patrols doubled. Species that once dismissed Earth revised their doctrines overnight. Human combat psychology became a required study in Imperial academies. Threxon recorded his final report alone, his voice steady but weighted. Let this stand as warning, he said. Humans do not fight to dominate. They fight to endure. If they ask for peace, it is genuine. If they prepare for war, it is already too late. He ended the recording and looked out at the stars. Valorian Zex resigned within the cycle. His name faded quietly, spoken only in cautionary contexts. The Empire survived. Changed. Scarred. Earth did not celebrate. It rebuilt. And across the galaxy, a new truth settled into collective consciousness, not spoken loudly, but never forgotten. Humanity was not invincible. It was something far more dangerous. Unbroken.